Hello, my name is Giselle, my pronouns are they, them, and welcome to my second Flosstube video. Today is February the 14th, it is a Wednesday, and it has been 7 stitchy days since I've last spoken to you. I filmed last Wednesday, so that makes sense. And yeah, let's just jump into this update. So I have 8 pieces to show you since I last talked to you. The first one is one that it's not a new start. It was an ongoing whip that I've had for a few months, but you hadn't seen it. I hadn't worked on it this year so far, so you hadn't seen it. But it is Dilemma by Long Dog Sampler. And if you haven't seen this one, so basically it looks kind of weird, but you stitch this whole like outer border bit, this top section, not the question marks though. And then the dilemma is that you choose 9 of these. There's 16, and you have to choose 9 to put in the boxes. And that is the dilemma. It's like, which ones do you choose? So what I'm going to do for stitching this is to choose my favorite 9 and put them in, obviously. I don't know why I even said that. Like, obviously that's what you're going to do, but I'm going to stitch the entirety of the outer border before and then move on and choose the 9 that I want to do, because I'm not totally sure what I want to do yet, and I don't want to choose ones that are too similar since some of them are quite similar. So not sure what I'm doing yet. So for now I'm just stitching the outer border. This is where I was when I started working on it. So I'm just started up in the upper top, obviously, right, left corner. I'm struggling today. Upper left corner. So that is what I had done. And then this is where I'm at. This is a really big piece of fabric, so ignore that. Anyway, so that is the progress that I made on it. And I just stitched on this last night, so I'd already done the elephants, but I did the little motif next to the elephants, which doesn't look like it's a lot of stitching. But it was 292 stitches is what I did on it, apparently. So yeah, it's a lot. And then this I am stitching on 40 count linen, and I'm stitching it in this incredible color. Where did I put it? This is what it is. It's like this, like, really grungy, pucey color. It's beautiful. It's like a chartreuse. It is from Dying for Sass on Etsy, and the color is Absinthe. Stunning. I love this color. I mean, obviously my hair used to be essentially this color, and I'm loving stitching this. The 40 count, so instead of buying a 40 count from a cross stitch supplier, I ended up going to Joann's and just buying a big hunk of fabric. That I obviously don't need all of this for this like rather small project. So I haven't cut it off yet, but I figured I would, since I hadn't already cut it off, I figured I'd leave it like this to show you how much I got. And it was like, I don't know, less than $10 for all of this. So if you like stitching on 40 count fabric, you can get some for quite cheap from going to like Joann's and just buying it out of the normal fabric section. So I recommend that. And like I said, yeah, I did like 292 stitches. And so basically with how it goes into the pattern software, you can't like choose the sections and input them in and everything. It just has the outside bits, and it has the question marks on the inside, which I won't be stitching obviously. So this is not an accurate representation, but since I'm going to stitch the entirety of the outside before choosing the inner bits for the outside, I started at 6.2% and I got to 7.72%. So I did a good amount of progress, I feel like, for I stitched for an hour and 39 minutes, and that was 7.1% of my stitching time this past week was spent on this, and I just stitched on it for one day. That was in one stitchy session last night, and I had so much fun stitching this. I really like stitching like the 1/1 on 40 count. It's like very delicate and small, tiny little stitches, and I can still stitch pretty fast on it. Stitching on 40 count does not slow me down. Okay, I feel like I've talked about that forever. Time to move on, and hopefully I will cut this down to be like the appropriate size now. Okay, so the next one that I stitched on was a new start this time. So I started on the Green Hills Reolist kit, and I'm so happy about it. I had shown this one as like haul last week, and then I was very excited, so I started it. I just started up in this upper corner, and this is where I am. So I am using a air and water soluble pen, so it will come out with water, but also it comes out with air and fades over time. So you can already see that the lines are fading, but I stitched on this over, I don't even know what just fell. I stitched on this over 2 sessions, and my first session was a week ago. It was last Wednesday. And I had some of the marker up on the top and on the side over here, and then I just redrew in the lines for my second session a few days ago. The ones from a week ago, totally gone. And the reason I'm choosing to do like an air soluble pen, and it looks more faded in person than it does on the camera. The reason I was choosing to do an air soluble pen is because I do want gridding, since this is full coverage and a lot of counting, and it will just help me keep track. But this is done with a special kind of thread from Reolist. It's a acrylic wool blend, and I don't know if it bleeds. It's not that I don't trust it, but I would just rather be safe than not. So rather than doing like a water soluble pen, which is what I use on a lot of my other projects with DMC, and I know that the DMC won't bleed, so that I'm okay to wash those and get the water soluble out. These ones I'm doing in air soluble so that they'll just disappear on their own and I don't have to wash them out. And in case you haven't seen a Reolist kit before, these are how the thread cards come. Like I said, it's like a wool acrylic blend. They're thicker than DMC, and they're like very like fuzzy. And I have a lot of texture problems with a lot of things, but these don't actually trigger my texture problems, which I was very worried about, but pleasantly surprised by. These are all the colors that this kit comes with. So it has 18 colors in total, and it seems like they give you a lot. Like, I'm not at all worried about running out, because the ones that you are going to need a lot of, they give you like a good amount of. Anyway, and yeah, this is how much I did. I do not count my stitches if the Podan software is not counting it for me. So I know I did somewhere between 300 and 400 stitches because I filled in nearly 3 blocks and then plus all this extra stuff. So probably almost 400 stitches. But after that, who knows? And in the future, I'm not going to be keeping track at all. So that's just one that it will get done when it gets done, and I do not know the percentage. Okay. What's next? Oh, that might have been what fell is... Oh, no, it's not. It's in front of me. I was like, I have my notebook with all this stuff. But I stitched on that one for an hour and 42 minutes, and I worked on it over 2 days, and that was 7.41% of my stitching time this last week. Okay, so the next one that I worked on is one that I did show you last week. It is Contessa with Squid. Let me just bring up the mock-up for you. And while I was searching for stuff to put in my description box last week, I found out that this is no longer on the Heaven and Earth Designs website, that none of Omar Rayyan's art is on the Heaven and Earth Designs website, which is honestly devastating. because this is simply incredible, and all of Omar Rayyan's artwork is phenomenal, and they are all gone. So if you wanted this, I'm really sorry. I guess it is discontinued, and I had no idea until after I already like filmed and posted the video. But yeah, this is a Heaven and Earth Designs. I stitch it on 2/1 half cross, or on an easy count, and this is where I was last week. So I did, oh, I don't know why I'm not like turning this so you can see it better. So I did, where I stitched is, I've been filling in like the black, and I was filling in the tentacle down here. So that is where I focused my stitching. And the tentacle is done, and I'm so excited. I still have a lot of that black to fill in, but the tentacle looks phenomenal. Yeah, so for this one, I think what I'm gonna do next, because I'm obviously done with this tentacle, and a lot of these stitches down here are all parked because they go further down and I cannot stitch with them with ease because they're running off the page. But I do want to finish filling in this black because it's just like back and forth, and it's getting like progressively smaller, so it shouldn't take too long. So I think what I might do is I might move the Q-snap up so that I can keep working with these threads. So we'll see, but I'll take a picture. I'm trying to do like 700 stitches on this every week. So hopefully 700 more stitches is what I'll get. And that will maybe get this bit filled in. That would be phenomenal. So for this one, I did 754 stitches on this week. I moved from 2.55% to 2.75%. So approaching that 3% mark. And the most exciting thing this week is that I hit 10,000 stitches. So this is what 10,000 stitches on Contessa with Squid looks like. And that's only less than 3% of the project, so quite a bit to go. And yeah, I'm at 10,116 stitches in total. And I ended up stitching on this for 1 hour and 55 minutes. I did those 754 stitches in just one stitchy session, and that was 8.41% of my stitching for this last week. And I'm loving every second of it. It is such a great stitch. Okay, so the next piece that I ended up working on was one that I did show you last time as well. And it is the Devil. It is from Thread Geeks. Let me just pull up the mock-up. So sorry for the glare. Maybe that's the best it will get. So it's like a tarot card with the Witch King, maybe, a Nazgul. And it looks so good. I'm so excited to stitch this. So it is by Thread Geeks, and the artist is A. Scythe. It's spelled SCEITH. And I'm stitching this on 28 count Monaco 2/1 half cross, how I stitch most of my things. And this is where it was the last time you saw it. So I lost it. I'm so sorry for my fumbling. I did stitch a tiny bit down here, but I mostly was just choosing up here and continuing to fill over. So yeah, this is where I was. And this is how it's looking now. So I got, obviously, like this whole middle bit almost completely filled in and continued stitching a lot over here. And I did do a tiny bit over here. Oh, it looks so good. I do really enjoy this one, but I do get sick of stitching a lot of shades of beige. So I can only stitch on it for like 500 to 1,000 stitches before I'm like, I need a break from the beige. So I think this one will maybe be going away. I was listening to the Return of the King this week. I did finish it. And I was listening to that while stitching on this. So it was thematic and very fun. So this one, I did 761 stitches on it. I went from 6.56 to 7.4%. So I almost moved up a full percent, and I am at 6,711 stitches in total. I stitched on it for 2 hours and a minute, and that was 8.82% of my stitching time this week. It looks so good. I'm so excited. Oh, phenomenal. Okay, so the next one that I stitched on is one that I ended up creating the pattern for. Here is the mock-up. It is the soul of the rose, a soul of the rose, or soul of the rose. There's no A in front of it. Soul of the rose. This is a painting by John William Waterhouse, and I really want to get this stitched up for my pattern shop, which is Garden Stitch Designs on Etsy. I think it would be really phenomenal to have like a stitched mock-up in my shop so that people can like see what it looks like. This one I'm stitching on 40 count verdal, 1/1 half stitch. And honestly, stitching light colors on 40 count 1/1 is kind of excruciating. It just about broke my brain. It was fine. I mean, obviously, I did it and everything was okay, but it was kind of painful to do that. I was trying to see if I could flip this, but I just realized it is the right way up. So I don't know why I was trying to do that. I need to flip my tablet. I'm not the smartest. Okay, so this is where I was. So you can't really super well see the stitches I did, but you can like pay attention to like the blue lines because those get covered up. But I was mostly just doing a lot of light stitches, and so they cover up the blue stuff of my gridding. So I did do a lot of stitches. I mean, about the same I did on everything else. But it was just like a lot of light stitches. And it was, I did quite a bit in here, and then also some of this bottom bit also, well, this bottom bit also got filled in down here. But trying to see what I had stitched and hadn't stitched on the 40 count was really difficult. I mean, it was okay, and I'm trying to see if I can make it focus a little bit better, but I don't know, most things are not a struggle for me with stitching, but this one was a little bit rough. I mean, it was fine, and it didn't really slow down my stitching. I just had to like concentrate a lot. I mean, I still did a lot of stitching, or a good amount of stitching in a good amount of time, and my average stitches for this piece, average stitches per hour, is still like 247 stitches per hour. So it's not like I'm stitching slowly on this piece at all, but it just like, my brain was just exhausted. So it was very interesting. Anyway, I need to stop rambling. So I stitched 722 stitches on this. I went from 4.95% to 7.8%. So that's one thing about working on a small piece. This only has like 25,000 stitches in total. So the fact that I'm able to jump like almost 3% with just 700 stitches is very nice for my brain, because none of these other pieces do that. I'm at 1,977 stitches. I'm about to hit the 2,000 stitches. I worked on it for 2 hours and 52 minutes, and that was 12.49% of my stitching time. So yeah, it was just like, it wasn't the piece. It's not the piece. It was the fact stitching a lot of really light colored stitches on 40 count 1/1 half crosses. That was a thing that I was just like, what have I stitched? I can't see my stitches. Honestly, it was rough. But it's okay. I made it through. And I worked on that for one day. I don't think I mentioned with the double, but I worked on that over 2 sessions. But the Soul of the Rose, I did it in 1 session, which I think if I'd split that up as well, it would have felt a little bit better than just like working on it for 3 hours in one day, and then feeling like my brain was melting. So that, my bad. That was on me. Okay, so Home in the Mountains is the next one. This is a piece where last time I didn't know the artist, but I think I have discovered the artist. So, and by discovered, I mean I just like Googled this artwork, and then I think this is the artist. Anyway, so this is what the piece looks like. Ugh, it's so gorgeous. I love it. This is by Golden Kite, and the artist is Jerry Vanderselt. I'm stitching this on 28 count, easy count, 2/1 half cross. Sorry for wiggling you. I forgot I needed my tablet to show you what it looked like last week. So this is what it was looking like. I've been focusing, I don't know why I don't turn that. I was focusing on filling in this section was mostly what I was doing. I really am just like butterfingers to the nth degree. Anyway, so just wanting to fill in those gaps is what I was wanting to do. And I did a great job filling in those gaps, I would say. Because it's looking so great. Oh, look at them. No gaps left in there. I will admit, some of the confetti in here is a little silly. Like, this all looks the same. It's all just like teals and blues, and if any of these stitches are out of place, it really doesn't matter. So sometimes there was like literally 1 stitch of a color, no other stitches up in this entire area, like on this whole section of that color, and just like 1 stitch of a color. And since these are like blended colors, a lot of them, so one of them might be like 924, and then one of them might be like 924 mixed with, I don't know, 3849. And so if one of them was just 924 and it was just a single stitch, and then one of them was 924 mixed with something else, I would just stitch that one with the like instead of like pulling out that and doing 1 stitch and finishing off the thread, I would just stitch it with the other ones. I was like, no one's gonna tell. Plus, I'm already using that thread just mixed with a different thread color. So I did do that a few times because sometimes I was like, why is there just 1 stitch up here? It was silly. It was unnecessary. Anyway, I have been enjoying stitching on this, and this is a different one that I was also listening to The Return of the King while stitching this, and that one's incredibly fun. Sometimes I stitch with very long pieces of thread, by the way, and I figured I would show that because it is kind of funny that like these are hanging down and they're like many feet long. I don't know. I just don't like having to rethread my threads. I just like stitching and stitching and stitching. Anyway, next time I stitch on this, I think I want to keep just going down here and filling in and just like filling in what's in this page. I don't know if, because the thing is, let me pull up what this looks like again. There's a lot of sky. And I don't know, I don't want to be stuck in the sky forever. So I don't know if I want to work down, which will keep me in the sky, or if I work over and then eventually I'll be in the mountains, but they're essentially the same color. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I think filling in the area that I'm on with the Q-snap is at least a good start. Anyway, so much threads, which is why I tend to wind them up, and you've seen several of my like bobbins that I've been using. I think they're called like bobbies, and it's so that your threads just don't like dangle. And I should get one for this project because it's a little ridiculous. Anyway, for Home in the Mountains, I worked on it. I went from 2.03% to 2.33%, so I did 0.3%, while listening to Lord of the Rings, essentially, to Return of the King, and it was such a vibe. I did 1,054 stitches. I was a little bit behind of where I was supposed to be last week, so I did a few extra stitches, so now I'm on track. And I hit 8,000 stitches. I'm at 8,071 stitches, so I'm super pumped with that. And that was, I worked on it for 2 hours and 57 minutes, and that was 12.84% or 12.85% of my stitching time. And I stitched on it for 2 different stitchy days. I love this piece. It's really, really fun, and I love doing the blended threads, but also it's just a lot of blue. And I figured I would show you what I do. So if I do have a blended thread and then I need to end that blended thread because there's no more within that vicinity, but there's still more in the piece, I have been, here are the symbols. So I'll draw the symbol, I'll write the 2 threads, and then I've been putting them on this card. And some of them are very short, like I don't have a lot left of this one, and then some of them are a lot longer. These are folded in half, so they're really long actually. So this is what I've been doing with my extra blended threads that I know I won't be able to keep stitching with for a bit. So if I do start a new blended thread, I do have to like look at this if the blended thread has already been used. It won't be a problem right now, but in the future, I thought about grabbing some of like the Atomic Heart thread blend, like bobbin card, like floss drop things, but it just, since this is my only cross stitch project with blended threads, and since I wouldn't want to like kit up all the blended threads right away because I have a master set of DMC behind me and that's what I work off of, I don't know if it's like worth it for me. For now this is working, but the nice thing about having them on like floss drops is that I'll be able to like move them around and put them in alphabetical order, whereas these, it is just when I get to them is where they end up, and they're not at all in any semblance of order. So it's something I've been thinking about. When I get further into this project, I might end up investing in those. And I have almost bit the bullet and bought them like twice, but I haven't done it yet. Because I'm a cheapo. I don't want to spend money. Okay. I have 2 more pieces left to show you. Sorry this video is so long. I just feel like I did a lot of stitching and I have a lot I want to share with you. So this next one, I don't have a stitched mock-up because I am making the stitched mock-up. but I can show you what the piece of art that it's based off of looks like. So this is going to be a pattern from the sewing shop.ca, or Kayli Tent Stitch is her name here on Flosstube and over on Instagram. And the artwork is by Josie Wren. So this is the artwork. It is incredible. It is called Slua, and it's like mythology of these, like, I don't know, these, I have read the mythology a few times, but also my brain is a sieve, and things just leak out of it. But there are these like creatures who like bring the night and like kill people, I think. Quite creepy, and this artwork, flipping phenomenal. So I'm doing the stitched mock-up. Last week I was here, and I ended up focusing down here, putting in the trees and etc. And I'm really proud of how far I got on this. I ended up doing all that. So completely done with the black down on the bottom. I've done 2 of the houses. There's one more that needs to be filled in over here. And I'm starting to fill in the ground over here. So one last little hill. Let me pull this up. So I'm filling in the hill. And then there's a little bit more of the like ground over here as well, I believe. I'm not actually totally done with the trees. That's a freaking lie. I just realized. I just had moved my Q-snap in a weird place. Not my Q-snap, why did I say that? My nerd tube. So I do have a little bit of the black left to go over here. I just realized, and I'm sad about that now. Dang it, I thought I was done with the black. Damn. Okay, so I have a little bit more of the black to do, and then I think there's 2 more houses over here. Anyway, I did a lot, and I'm happy with that. I did end up doing 844 stitches, so not like a huge amount of stitches, but my goal this week was to try to do 125 stitches every single day, and I did end up hitting that. And I ended up going from 82.84% to 88.74%. So ended up going up 6%. I feel like I have to sneeze. Oh, so sorry. And that means next week I'm going to be in the 90% mark. I only have 2 weeks left to go on this before it is done. And since I ended up doing so much stitching, that means that I only have to do 100 stitches a day every day to get this done by the end of the month. So that is definitely doable. This has been a daily piece of mine this entire year pretty much so far. So 100 stitches, and I'm so excited. Okay, so another exciting thing is that I hit 12,700 stitches. So I've done a lot on this piece, and I stitched on this for 7 days. I didn't miss any days, and I stitched on it for 4 hours and 17 minutes, and that was 18.66% of my stitching time this week. Almost 20% of my stitching time went on this. I've been making a great effort on like not skipping anything. Okay, and my last piece, Astrology Cat, which was part of the 2024 HAED SAL. Let's see. I don't have like an actual mock-up of what this is supposed to look like, but I do have the art that it's based off of, even though this is not quite an accurate representation. That's all right. So this is the artwork. The artist is Ciro Marchetti. And I did look up how to say his name, and it is Ciro. So if anybody is wondering how to say Ciro Marchetti's name, it's Ciro Marchetti. I'm not as certain about the Marchetti bit. I need to go double check myself. I meant to double check that part before the video and I forgot, but I'm 100% certain that it is Chiro. I found an interview with him saying his name, and his name, he said, I'm Chiro. So I know it's Chiro. So if anybody's wondering how to say his name, and I'm pretty sure it's Marchetti. Anyway, I can double check that before the next one. But I'm proud of how far I've gone on this one. So this is not quite where it was. I forgot to take a picture right after my last video, so I'd already done like 100 stitches maybe at this point. So I had stitched over here and kind of filled in this like last column over here, this last row over here. But this is roughly where it was the last time you saw it. And then I've just been working my way across, essentially. I'm just picking the highest symbols. And then this is where it's at today. And I just go with where the symbol brings me. So I have come down a bit more over here. I've started filling in over here. And filled in some down here. I believe. And then also yesterday, a lot of the stitches I was filling in, I was able to finish the color because there was only a little bit, and then there were like 2 more stitches down here, so then I would like just finish them off. So I finished 10 colors in this section yesterday, which felt pretty good. Anyway, for this piece I ended up doing, it's 28 count Monaco. Oh, I totally forgot to say with this one, it's 36 count, 2/2, full cross, and this fabric is from Kayli's Tent Stitch, thesewingshop.ca. Totally recommend her fabrics. If you just want to have like a little drool session, go to thesewingshop.ca and just browse the fabrics, because I think Kayli is one of the most inventive and creative and impressive dyers on the scene right now in cross stitch. Just so inventive and beautiful and talented, like, fabric that she makes. Ugh, gorgeous. Anyway, sorry if there's been a slight angle change. The space on my phone filled up and I had to delete some stuff. I'm doing my best impression of Crafty Emily. Okay, so where I was for this is 28 count Monaco 2/1 half stitch, and I ended up doing 1,550 stitches on this, which I'm trying to do 200 stitches a day, so that's perfect. I did more than that. That would have been 1,400, and I did 1,550. I only have access to the first 3 pages in this pattern because they're releasing them in sections. So for this first section, I ended up moving from, like, for just what I have access to, I ended up moving from 37.16 to 43.92%. But if we're looking at the entirety of the piece, the entirety stitch count of the piece, I ended up moving from 14.06% to 16.62%. And for the entirety of the stitches, I hit 10,071 stitches for the entirety of this piece so far, which I'm incredibly excited about. So there's 2 different pieces that I hit 10,000 stitches on this past week. And considering that I started this one less than 2 months ago and I'm already 10,000 stitches in, I'm feeling really good about that. I'm very impressed with that. And I ended up stitching on this one for 5 hours and 33 minutes. And I did, that was 24.18% of my stitching time. So nearly a quarter of my stitching time was on this piece. And I stitched on it for 6 days. There was one day that I just really did not have the energy. So then the next day I ended up stitching 400 stitches because I don't want to get behind. So yeah, it's going well. So that's all my stitching for the week. That was so long. Sorry. Or not sorry, so that you don't have to switch your videos while you're stitching. Okay, so I have a small amount of haul. I think I figured out what fell, but I'm not going to pick it up because I don't want to stand up because I'm kind of trapped in this corner. So basically, what I ended up, so my haul, I just have two things that came together. So my haul, I ordered it a couple weeks ago. I think only like less than 2 weeks ago. It came really, really quick. Considering that it came from Australia, I was really impressed. So I ordered some silks from Silks for You, which, I mean, so far they look really lovely, but I haven't used them yet because I'm saving them for my new start that's going to be on the 29th because I'm going to be starting a long dog for Long Dog Leap Year SAL. And I'm really excited about it. It technically is a long dog that I have already started, but I don't like the floss that I was using for the fabric that I was using. So I stopped stitching on it. And looking at it right now, it doesn't look that bad, but I just was not enjoying stitching it. So I figured that I started it in October. Actually, I can tell you. I started it October 23rd, and it just was not working. So the piece that I plan on starting for Long Dog Leap Year is Templar Prophecy. Obviously a Long Dog sampler piece. I don't plan on doing the side border and this top border because they don't bring me joy. I'm going to leave the room for them on the fabric, so if I get to the end, or if I'm stitching and I feel like it's taking a lot away from the piece to not stitch it, I can always add them in because I'm going to leave the room, but I'm not planning on stitching them. So what I ended up doing is I started stitching up in the corner where that dragon is. And this is what I stitched. It is, I don't even know if that's the right way up, but this is 40 count that I also got from Joann's in the fabric section. Really freaking huge piece of fabric. And what I was trying to stitch with was 1/2 sulky. And it just felt really, it felt like, one, sparse coverage, like I feel like I can see a lot of the white through, but two, it felt really thick because the sulky floss is so thick. And yeah, I realized that's what it felt. So I can't grab my sulky spool, but it just, I don't know, it's like really like bumpy. They weren't laying super smooth, and it just really sticks out from the fabric. And I feel like on a 40 count, I don't want it to stick out from the fabric. So I ended up ordering some Silks for You, and I got PR011, and it is this really beautiful green. It leans a little teal, but it's not as teal as what it's looking like for you. It looks a little bit more green for me. Maybe not as green as I was hoping it would be, but I still really like it, so I'm still gonna stitch with it. I don't know, I wish I could make it show up the color that I'm seeing. It's not as blue as what it's looking like for you. Anyway, and it is a pretty close match to what I was already using. This is just a tad bit more green. But anyway, so I'm gonna rip this out and then start over for Long Dog Leap Year. So I need to rip that out soon so that I can have just a fresh start on Long Dog. And if you don't know what Long Dog Leap Year, so a leap year SAL is basically that you start something on the 29th of February and then you plan on getting it done by the 29th of February. So in 4 years. And I think a lot of people stitch on it every 29th of every month, but I think I'm just going to stitch on it whenever I want. I don't know if stitching on it on the 29th of every month is something that would work for me. Anyway, obviously that silk couldn't travel alone, and shipping from Australia to America was like $15 in shipping. So instead of just buying a $30 silk and then spending $15 on shipping, I ended up buying two $30 silks and then spending $15 on shipping. So I also bought PR070, which was the black. So very basic. Again, it's feeling a little bit washed out, but it isn't the blackest black, which you're not, I wouldn't expect that with like an overdyed silk. I would expect it to be a little bit more like on the gray side, but this one's actually a little bit more on like the brown side. But I was thinking of doing Queen's Gambit with this, because I really like the idea of stitching Queen's Gambit from Long Dog Samplers with the black on the white. That feels like a really good idea to me. It just looked very classic for a chessboard. So this was like, I might as well do that, and I use a lot of black, and this might be a fun thing to have in my stash. And if I'm going to spend $15 on shipping, it's more like $7.50 on shipping, right? Ow. Ow to my budget. And yeah, and I was not certain. When I ordered it, it said it would be here anywhere from like the 20th to like the 5th or something. So I didn't know if it would get here in time for the SAL. Sorry, excuse me. So I just ordered it, crossed my fingers, and it got here with over 2 weeks to spare. So very, very thankful to that. And they're very soft, and I've never used silks for you, so I hope I love them. They seem to be lovely, and I've heard nothing but good things about them. And anyway, if you want to buy 40 count, I mean, it's not as soft as like a 40 count you would get from like a cross-stitch supplier, but also it was like $5 for like so much fabric. So I feel like there's some trade-offs there. Okay, so I was going to talk about two last things before I wrapped up today's video. So one thing really quickly is just like my floss storage, and I guess my stitchy spot in general. So I have a lamp right here. It's just on a stand, and this I can totally move around, and it has like, I can kind of just move it to however I want, and this will like angle everything for me. So this is where I sit and stitch. I have my Lowry stand right here. I do also have a Kay's Creation stand that I use for like when I'm traveling and out and about. But my Lowry is what I use the majority of the time. Sometimes I have it up higher, sometimes I have it up lower. But I have it here 100% of the time. And I have a full set of DMC right here. So I've only been stitching for a short amount of time, but I've gone hardcore into it. I mean, I technically started stitching over 2 years ago, but really hardcore, like when I started getting into full coverage a year ago, I knew I wanted to have a full set of DMC because I was like, this is the thing that hits for me. This is the thing that makes me want to stitch for like 5-10 hours in a day if I can. Was full coverage. So I started buying them slowly over time, and I ended up putting them on carabiners, which I've never seen anybody else do this. I'm not saying that it's a unique idea or that nobody else has done this. I'm just saying that this is what I did because I was trying to think of how I could make them easily transportable if I needed to. So sometimes if I'm just stitching on something really small, I'll just pull off like the 4 or 5 that I need and stitch them, and then they can go back on, and I don't have to like, I don't know, it's just like very easy to have them on carabiners. And I was able to pull off like the DMC bit of, I don't know, whatever you call this, the label, and it just slides right onto the carabiner. So this is one that was splitting, so this is not a good one to choose it with, actually, to show it with. This one was, I guess, more delicate, so let me try it with a different one. Hold on just a second. And I put it on backwards. Okay, let's try it with color number 4. And also let me fix this before it makes me sad. Okay, here we go. So here's number 4. I'm just going to pull the floss off just so that I can pull this off. So basically, I mean, it took so long. It took hours, but I don't think it took, I think it was faster than bobbinating for certain. I hate bobbins. That I was able to just take off the label. I chose like the wider side of the carabiner for it to go on so that I can still use the clasp to get it on and off. And I would just slide it right on. And then I know exactly what floss this is. And then I would unwind all the DMC from that skein. I would just fold it until it got to this length. I'd fold it once more till it got to this length. I'd snip one end, and then I had a loose length that I could start doing my pulls from, like a floss drop. And I would just loop that on, and there we go. That's my full set of DMC. So, in case you were wondering what this hideous setup behind me on the hangers were, that's what that is. And I'm quite pleased with this setup. It works really, really well for me. And it also works for like putting the little loose bits of thread back on. So if I ever do cut off some excess, or have to end off some thread or whatever, I have like my full skein, and then I put little short lengths on. And some of them have a lot of little short lengths. And then some of them, when they get really close to the end, I'll just buy more and then put them on here. There we go. That's my floss setup, and I thought it was maybe interesting, maybe something you haven't seen before, and it works for me. I don't have any pets, I don't have any children, so I'm able to just like leave this sitting here and it's no issue. But if you have like a cat or something that likes attacking a lot of loose thread, I would maybe be cautious, because they might see this as their toy, their feast. But for me, it has just been so perfect, and it makes stitching so fast and so accessible and so fun. And I think that is part of the reason why, I mean, I do stitch half stitch the majority of the time, so I think that is why I can stitch like 200 to 300 stitches in an hour a lot of the time. But I think another factor of that is that all my floss is right here. It just takes me literally a couple of seconds to find it and pull off and start it and go. I don't have to unwind a bobbin and things like that. And I don't have a bunch of extra floss kitted up in projects and stuff. I do for some projects, but the majority of it is right here. And if I'm stitching full coverage, I don't really care that I have matching floss for the full coverage, because it's going to be so scattered and confetti anyway that you won't be able to tell. Anyway, this is the love of my life. Except for my dear sweet husband. This is the second love of my life, is having my full set of DMC set up. And it took me several weeks to get this set up. It took so long, but it was so worth it, and it brings me a lot of joy. So I figured I'd mention that. And the other thing that I thought I'd mention is my empty bookcases. I'm currently in the process of moving, So these normally would have books on them, but they're very desolate right now. So in case you were wondering why I have very empty bookcases and just like random baskets and stuff moving, all of our books are mostly packed up at this point. So anyway, that's it. If you have any questions, let me know. I don't know if there's anything else I need to add, but oh, the last thing I was gonna say for my stitching this week, since for Green Hills, I don't know exactly how many stitches I did. I know it was close to 400, probably, but not including that, I did 5,977 stitches, which would have been like 260 stitches per hour, or 853 stitches per day. And then if we say that I did stitch 350 stitches on that, because I know I probably did at least that much, then that brings my average up to 275 stitches per hour, or 903 stitches per day, which I'm very happy about, considering there were a couple days that I only stitched like 300 stitches. And then there were some days I went absolutely buck wild, as you can tell, to bring my average up that much. As far as like my goals for this year is, I do have a spreadsheet that lets me know that if I stitch for 2 hours every day, that in 9 years, 9.35 years, I will finish all my cross stitch projects, and that if I stitch 500 stitches every year, I will finish all my projects in 10 years, 10.39 years. So my goal on average is to stitch at least 500 stitches a day. That is what I'm aiming for, is like my minimum. I'd like to hit 500 stitches a day so I can be like, yes, in 10 years, essentially, I will finish all my projects. I mean, obviously I will start new ones, but that's like my goal, my hope. This doesn't include my few projects that I only have like paper charts of, or don't go into Pattern Keeper, or something that will track my stuff, but I would say it's like a fairly accurate estimation. But if I do hit 1,000 stitches, then that would bring that down by half. It would be like closer to like 5.5 years. So my goal is 500, but my like stretch goal is like, if I could do 1,000 stitches every day, that means all of these projects would be done in 10 years, or in 5 years, which would be phenomenal. And it's not that stitching is a race and everything, but I do want to get these, and it is about like the joy of stitching for me. I'm not a project finisher, I'm like a process stitcher. But some of these I would like I said, we're moving soon. I would like to get some of these projects finished so that they can be up on the walls and we can enjoy them in our new space. And I don't have to wait like 10, 20, 30 years to get them up on the walls. And I know for some people that doesn't matter, that they're truly just about the process. But for me, I do want some of these finished some days. So it's kind of like a balance. So that's why I do like I just like tracking it in general. I like avidly track my reading and how much I read every day and stuff like that as well. So it makes sense for me to just like incorporate that into my stitching as well. So I just thought it would maybe be interesting for something for you to hear, that like, if I do stitch 500 stitches every day, it will take me 10 years. And if I stitch 1,000 stitches every day, it will take me 5. And I think that's really exciting numbers, because there are these huge projects that seem like unreachable, but they're actually very reachable. And I have like 40 more projects that I haven't even showed you, essentially. So I know I can finish them all in a pretty reasonable amount of time. Anyway, I will see you all next week, hopefully. Hopefully with like 7,000 stitches, although probably not. But if it's more than 3,500, then I will be a happy person. I will stop rambling since this is like an hour long, and I will see you next week. Let me know if you have any questions down below, and I'd love to hear any thoughts and comments you have. Bye everyone.